All right, so I'm. This is our second interview here for Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes, and we have Dawn Cunningham with us today, and we also have Wes.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Good, thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so I guess I don't know what Wes has told you, but basically we started this to talk about country music and its legacy, and we've been covering different albums, just talking about the albums, what we think about, not really a review, but mostly just like this is what we think about these songs. This is who played on them. Just a little bit of a deep dive and just some random. We did Charlie Pride. We've done Johnny Paycheck, Linda Martell. We did Jeannie C. Riley, John Prine. That's what we've covered so far. And then last week we had our first interview with Charlie McCoy. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
it was pretty fun. So we're still getting the hang of the interview thing, but
Yeah, all
um,
good.
yeah. So I guess maybe start with just telling us how you got into your career, how you got to into country music, and what you do now.
So I've always kind of been around music, but interestingly, when I was 8 years old, my parents got me the Loretta Lynn's Coal Miner's Daughter soundtrack. I remember it, and this is totally going to date me. It was
Hmm.
on a cassette tape. Okay, so like I'm old as dirt, right? So I had my boombox in our basement. I was so excited. I would stand on our couch in our basement with a hairbrush as my microphone, and I would sing along to this Coal Miner's Daughter soundtrack to the movie. And it was so funny because I had no idea that my parents were listening to me singing at the top of the stairs. I had no clue. And they had a Christmas party every year for a business that they worked with. And this year they had this band. And so I was old enough to go this year. I was so excited. Oh, I'm going to get to go to this big person Christmas party as this little 8 year old. And I was excited about the band because, you think about you as an 8 year old, everything is fun, right?
Hmm.
Everything is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So the band's playing and you're jumping around and it's a country band. And the next thing I know is they stopped at the end of this song that they're finishing and they said, "All right, we want Dawn to come on up and we're going to sing a song with her." And I was like, "What?" Like I had no idea. I had no clue. Apparently my parents had told them, "Oh, she's been singing. Oh, well, we know Coal Miner's Daughter." So they had me come up on stage and sing with the lead singer of the band. They sing Coal Miner's Daughter. And
Okay.
I was hooked, as you
Yeah.
can say. Like, that was it. So, I mean, yeah, I could totally date myself and tell you exactly how old I am, but you can probably Google that up and find it if you really want to. But but at 8 years old, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. And kind of developed a knack for singing and started doing some things locally. And then I kind of branched out into some bigger things, some bigger opportunities that happened to do some recording over the course of the following years and just explore being in a recording studio and what that was like. And when I was 10, between the ages of 10 and 11, I actually, if you think about manifestation, and I don't know
Yeah.
how you feel about that, or visualization, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, I thought about this the other day. I mean, did I help to create that by singing along to Coal Miner's Daughter in my basement with a hairbrush? Because here I was connected with a promoter at that point that was helping me get gigs at that point,
Yeah.
and helping my parents kind of guide me through what it is that I was going to be doing musically. And I he says, "Oh, I have this great opportunity. Loretta Lynn is going to be playing at the Hillsdale County Fair in Michigan." And that's kind of in the area of the country where I was raised and where I was growing up at.
Okay.
And I was like, "Okay, great. We're going to go to the show." He's like, "No, we're going to go on the show." And I was like, "What do you mean we're going to go on the show?" So it was so amazing. I remember going to that first show and meeting her for the first time as this 10-year-old, just like, oh my gosh, like this was my idol. Like this is who I started singing her music. This is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gosh, such a really incredibly genuine and just loving individual she was. Amazing, amazing person. What you saw is what you got. Totally country to her core.
Oh
Like
yeah.
country
Yeah.
is corn, right? And it was just so much fun. I did a handful of shows over the course of that year with her where she would introduce me in the middle of her set, where she would go and do a wardrobe change, but would bring me on stage and introduce me. And I would sing with her band. We would sing Walking After Midnight.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, oh, it's great. So she'd leave the stage and then she'd come back out in a different dress, her whole motif that she always wore. And I just remember being able to go on the bus with her afterwards and hang out with her when her managers were coming in and out and the show was wrapping after she had signed autographs. It was just such a cool gift to be able to spend that time to do that and to have those opportunities. So long story, even longer,
Oh,
that just
I
really
love
prompted
Loretta.
me. Well, it prompted me to continue that musical career just because I feel like her genuine nature, so her loving nature, and the way that I don't know that you could do that the way she came up through country music anymore. I mean, right?
No, I don't think
Probably
so.
not. No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not feasible anymore in our day and age. And so many things have changed. And I think part of watching her path and learning her path and how she got where she was so encouraging to me as a young artist. I'm like, oh my gosh, she came from Butcher Holler, like
Yep.
Butcher Holler, like Kentucky. And I'm like, okay, she can do it. No, okay, I can do this too. And it really built a fire inside of me and a love for music. And I mean, that's some of like, there's a lot of things that kind of pulled me into that arena, but that was such a huge catalyst. And just getting to spend that time with her was incredible. And then, of course, then I go into sing and I'm like, I love all of her music, but we're laughing about it now because I had a friend say, you were 13 years old singing One's on the Way. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I love
I
that
Yeah.
song
mean,
too.
but I mean, it's what you do. And it's just, that's your idol. That's your icon. That's the person that you look up to and go, oh my gosh, she hung the musical moon for me. So I was so, so, so fortunate. And it was just one of the best experiences of my life. And I went up in my attic to look for that picture the other day, and then I got distracted and I wasn't able to get. So as soon as this podcast recording's done, I'm going back up there to get my pictures out
Okay.
because it's such a really I'm so grateful for it. I'm just incredibly grateful for all of that time.
Well, I usually have my Butcher Holler Loretta Lynn hat on. I don't know where I
Ah,
said it. I mean, Wes and I are both from Kentucky, and
Yeah.
Loretta's my favorite ever. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's pretty cool to hear about it. And you listen to her in different interviews or even watch live performances in her stage banner and how witty she was. She is so country and so genuine and like honest in the stuff she says, and she could just give it right back to anyone. And
I mean,
it's
totally.
no
Yeah.
one ever like her. I actually got to see her. I'm 34, and sadly, like I was talking about this, a lot of the people we're talking about are long gone, but I was lucky enough to see her in in
Where was that
concert
at?
once. It was in Tennessee. I think it was in 2013, maybe.
Oh,
And
Well,
wow.
she went through that sort of resurgence. What was that? Is it Van Leer Rose? Was that the album that she
yeah,
did with Jack White?
it was on that tour, I think.
Yeah, it was so cool I mean, I Jack White has done a lot, I think, for country music. Actually, people think about him as like a rock guy, but I'm really glad that they got to collaborate together because I feel like Loretta Lynn didn't need any help to be relevant to people who are familiar with her, but I think for younger people, maybe that gave them an opportunity to sort of like be exposed to her again. Because I think a lot of those albums, I don't know when Coal Miner's Daughter came out, but like a lot of the ones I have on vinyl that I've played on like my radio show are from the '70s, and I feel like that was kind of her heyday. But she stayed very relevant for the decades that followed. She was one of those people, kind of like George Jones or Charlie Pride, who like Willie Nelson, after decade, they just stayed in the charts and they made such good music. And I think part of that, something all of those people have in common, and you kind of touched on this with Loretta, is just how genuine they were
Mm,
and the way
yeah.
they came up. So I think that alone will carry someone far. Just talk about kind of in the beginning, you were talking about sort of manifesting that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like if somebody comes from those roots and they're a good person, you don't, I don't know. I think everybody enjoys a story like that too. And yeah, I remember Coal Miner's Daughter, just speaking of like you said, cassette. I remember growing up, we had the VHS tape of the movie
Oh
and
my
like,
gosh, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we watched it all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Same here, same here. And that was, I mean, I think I could recite every line that Sissy Spacek said as as Loretta.
Yeah.
So great.
She
Yes.
sings on the soundtrack, doesn't she?
You know what she does. And
Yeah.
I was just, I think about that as an adult now, and I think what she had to put in to getting to that point where she sounded so similar to Loretta and what
Yeah.
she had to do to, I mean, and she's an actor, so right, she knows what she has to do to make that happen. But man, like she dove in and she did a great job.
Oh, she
I
did.
thought she
Yeah.
did an amazing
Yeah.
job.
And Loretta's voice is like pretty impossible to match. And
Right.
with that twang, but like
Hmm.
also like pitch perfect. She was, yeah,
Yeah. One of my favorite movies to this day. To this day.
it is really well made. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of like what you said, Wes, I think the timelessness of those artists that have passed away, that have really laid the foundation for the roots of country music. It's
Mhm.
just, I don't know that it would happen the same way today just because of the way the world and the way the music industry is, unfortunately. I think there's really good things about it because of the music that you're able to create and bring to people. But there's also that other side of it that I don't know. I mean, if Loretta Lynn was sitting here with us today trying to become a country music artist, would she make it? You know?
Be a lot harder. I
Mm.
think that just the way that you have to promote yourself too is different. And I don't know that there's, if we're talking about the country music industry in particular, there's not, how do I say this kindly? The genuine aspect of the people making that music feels a bit absent.
I
Is the,
agree.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's tough as a fan of the genre. Now there's still people making amazing country music. It doesn't get called that anymore, right? It gets called Americana or like, sometimes I mean bluegrass has made a bit of a resurgence, and that's actually like I'm amazed Billy Strings is as popular as he is just playing bluegrass music. But
Yeah.
outside of that, it's tougher and tougher to find an act like Loretta Lynn. I'm really curious. So I know you also mentioned you grew up and you were playing music in Branson. I don't know a ton about like music community in Branson outside of, don't laugh at me here, but my context is basically stuck to an episode of King of the Hill, which is a really good episode where Connie is a great like she plays the she's playing the fiddle and she doesn't call it the fiddle, right? They have to explain to her that in country music it's the fiddle.
Right.
And ultimately they go see this guy to get her like bow rosined up, and she's like, "All right, let's go to Branson." And so they go there and like they go to this big like music festival. But tell us a little bit more about that time and sort of what Branson was like for country music.
Gosh, Branson was amazing when I was there, and it was really growing. There was so much, it was so small. You could blink your eye and drive through the main highway right in the middle, the two-lane highway. And music theaters were being built on either side of the road. The traffic was horrendous after the second year I was there, but the popularity was amazing. Silver Dollar City was where I worked, and I was a
Okay.
singer in their evening show, and it was again, I just another really super grateful piece for me in my life. And the people that I met there, the people that were a part of that whole production, the people that were in the show with me. And I will just tell you, I feel like that, Silver Dollar City has been around for a long time, but it grew as Branson grew. It just became exponentially bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you had a lot of different artists that were coming along. The Osmond brothers,
Hmm.
interestingly, had a theater there that they built.
I know Ray
Let's see.
Stevens had one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ray Stevens. Hey, funny one here. Ray Stevens, not it was Yakov Smirnoff. Do you know the name Yakov Smirnoff, right?
He's in that episode of King of the Hill,
Oh my
actually.
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a place called the Grand Palace, which was right in the middle of Branson. Now, I have no idea if this is still there because all of my friends and contacts, I mean, that was, golly, guys, that was 1993, 94,
Mhm.
ninety
Okay.
five, like early 1990s. And so most of our contacts are all gone, and the landscape there has shifted dramatically. But I remember the Grand Palace being the place where they would bring country music, bigger country music artists in that weren't going to be at Silver Dollar City or that weren't going to be at someone else's show, and Yakov Smirnoff came in and did like a stint there for a couple of weeks. And I was teaching voice lessons at a local place, as also doing studio work because my call time for the show wasn't till 5 o'clock every night.
Mm.
So I'm like, all right, well, I got stuff to do, and I'm done with the show by 10, home by probably 11:30 at the latest after we wrap everything up. So I'm looking for work to do during the day. And I get this contact, his manager contacts me. He needs to work on English dialect for God Bless the USA or God Bless America. It was one of those songs. I gave him a handful of voice lessons, helping him with the English dialect for this
Oh,
song,
wow.
for this
It's
song. But
amazing.
yeah, but the theaters and the whole rapport in Branson, it's very symbolic, I think, to kind of the Loretta Lynn days. Kind of
Hmm.
takes you
Yeah.
back to those old roots. And Andy Williams was there, Moon River, right? And
Hmm.
just a lot of old music that kind of was not necessarily rooted in country, but was developing that way and going that direction, and really hit a sweet spot with a lot of people and brought back those old country tunes and kind of resurged this really nice environment of, it was a family environment. It was very grassroots kind of environment. The show that I was in was Country America Magazine's 100 Greatest Hits of All Time.
Okay.
So it was sponsored by the magazine. And so we did, over the 2.5 hour show, we did snippets of as many of these songs as we could.
Hmm.
One of the songs I got to do, or the snippet of the song I got to do, was Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man.
Okay.
Love that one.
Oh,
Okay,
it's
great,
pretty
great.
hard one to sing there.
Oh my
Yeah, it
gosh.
is.
Oh, so fun though. And then another really fun one for the cast to do was Boot Scoot and Boogie, in which I don't
Mhm.
know, when I was thinking about that, is that really an old song? Am I totally?
It's early 90s.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
I
old.
don't think it was in the late. I'm pretty sure it was like 91 or
it's stayed relevant. I think it's still like for whatever reason that because that's Brooks and Dunn, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I got a copy sitting on my mailbox down there right now. It's still like one of the biggest line dance songs that
Yeah.
people use.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
We
and
we
it's all
also
over
had.
TikTok and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay, so see,
Hmm.
look, old becomes new again.
Hmm.
They're just recrafting it. We also did Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart.
That's
That was a
also
big
one of
deal.
the big line dance songs. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
those had to have been about the same time they came out too, I think.
Yes, yeah, I know that was in that within probably a couple of years of each other,
Yeah.
basically. And so between myself and the rest of the cast, we had the first year it was a cast of 3 girls and 4 guys, and then the next year we went 4 guys, 4 girls, and then we had a huge band behind us. We had a comedian in the show. We had like the whole intermission. We had the whole thing. But we had so many people at intermission and afterwards that would buy our products or buy our okay, here we go again, cassette tapes that I was selling, right? And they would be like, I just love that version of that song. I love this. And we had to do our best to try to mimic that artist and do as much as we could in their in their pocket and how they performed it. And I mean, there's just really something to be, my coworker, my castmate, she sang Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors. I mean,
Mm.
this just, you think about those old songs. And as I was reminiscing on it the other day, there's nothing like that now. There's just nothing like that. That's why I love what you guys are doing and talking about this, bringing back the memories of where country music was founded, kind of where it was rooted.
Yeah. Funny enough, you can't. Well, my background's blurred, but all those boxes, like 300 country cassettes on the wall.
Okay, there we go. Cassette
Yeah,
tapes.
I'm
All
old too.
right.
But
And you said you're 34, so okay, I
yeah,
don't feel so bad. That's good. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
definitely not 34.
I, I feel all over the place some days, but
Hmm.
I think yeah, you're right. It's there's definitely a lot of people that are making music now. It's like amazing. Even when you're talking about your upbringing, where I've been reading, I think Wes read this Her Country book, and it's talking about Casey Musgroves and Marion Morris, where they had similar upbringings to you, where they kind of had family members. They're like, hey, they're like 10, 9 years old, and they're like, hey, will you come sing at this event? And then they fell in love with singing country, and I think some of the really authentic people like that tend to be a little more pop in ways, but I still find those singers really authentic and honest. But unfortunately, like the radio just kept trending country to be more and more and more pop till it's not really sounding like the genre anymore. So it is hard to like find the and I think that's kind of why we've done this is I've talked to people who are like, I have nothing against Taylor Swift, but I don't really find her country, and people think that is country or they think Jelly Roll's country, and
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Wait, I heard this George Jones or Tammy Wynette song." They're like, "What? This is country? This is amazing!" And so that's kind of for us. We like talking about how diverse country is with not there's so many women, and we've been talking about Charlie Pride and different people that were in country that made up the make of everything, but also just how like fun it is to listen to. And so it's
Oh,
just like
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
just fun to talk about.
And I think too, if we go kind of flash forward to this day and age in the music industry, I think there's such a, I mean, it's a money making situation, and they're constantly searching for the next marketable person. Like, and I have friends that are in the music industry, and sadly, I mean, I walked away from it interestingly because it was just a place for me that was like, I don't feel connected to where this is headed for me.
Yeah.
And I think I was at a point in my life where I was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I can do something in that market, if you will.
Hmm.
And interestingly, I ended up being a personal trainer for country music artists. So I was
Wow.
living vicariously through them, which I'm really glad that I didn't
Yeah.
continue to pursue to be where they are now, or to try to be at that
Yeah.
place where those people were, because there was so much attached to it that they had to do that I know really probably wasn't their heart, but they
Yeah.
had to because they were involved in a marketing situation where it's like,
Hmm.
this is, if I don't do it, they're going to find somebody else to do it. And then I think about old country music, and like we talk about Tammy Wynette's and Loretta Lynn's and the Jeannie C. Riley's and all of, gosh, even Patsy Cline. Like we put
Oh
them
yeah.
today, what would happen? And I would like to think that their genuinism and their talent and what their desire to bring that grassroots kind of feeling and song to the public would matter, but I don't know that it would sell this day because of the, like what you were saying, like people's perspective is all over the place about what country music is.
Oh yeah. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. You talk about that too, and you know, I think about stuff like Loretta Lynn, like the pill. And I
Hmm.
mean, that was
Right?
50 years ago, and she didn't care what people thought, and she was going to put
Yeah.
that out. And nowadays, I don't even where society's progress way more progressive. You kind of wonder if someone that's in the forefront that's really popular would even have the guts to put something out like that now.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't. I mean, even back then, I think it's kind of a true badass story that a lot of women in country were making music. Like, I think Dolly had a song that maybe got banned by radio stations, right? Like, they collectively decided we're not playing that song. And the same was true, I think, for The Pill and some other Loretta songs. And it's amazing that I mean, it speaks to the character of people in that. We talk about this a lot, like the context of making music in that time, and as even in country music alone, like as a woman, obviously is completely different than being a man in country music, right? Like so,
Yeah.
and today, sadly, another thing that Josh and I have touched on is that it hasn't changed that much. Like I'm baffled by Josh mentioned that book, Her Country, and then I read Alice Randall's book, My Black Country, and both of them kind of talked a bit about how the radio stations still to this day are so uh, they're not diverse at all, and they're afraid.
Right.
Like they actually have rules about like you can only play a woman every like 4 or 5 songs, something like that. Like you can only play so many per hour. That's absurd. Especially with the amount of like just in the time that we've been talking, think of how many amazing people we named
Mhm.
that wouldn't have been getting radio play if they went by that rules. Now, thankfully, I think they were such big stars then that didn't happen. And
Mhm.
radio was just a different world. It wasn't. I want to say there's that law that passed in like the late 90s that Tom Petty has the Last DJ song about it, where basically all the radio stations kind of were able to be bought up under one umbrella, and then from that point on, they've sort of called the shots on like what gets played on mainstream radio, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I have a radio show here in town. I'm on WXNA, and it's great because it's free form, and we get to play whatever we want, and we're not, beholden to like sponsorships or other things. And so we get to break out of those rules. And I have a country music show that I play, every Monday, and it's something I try to think a lot about when I'm putting my playlist together. And yeah, Loretta showed up so many times. I wish I had it with me right now, but I have this great, like, Crisco did a compilation album with her, and on the back of it, she's holding like a jar of it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like most of her greatest hits. It's fantastic. But the other one I have, it has a double name, and it's escaping me right now. I know the first part is Woman of the World. But yeah, she's just, I mean, all of her records from them were so special, so important. I feel like Josh is trying to go find that record, but
Oh wait, he's
he
putting the
got his
hat on.
hat.
He got
Yeah,
his butcher
I'll
holler
put my
hat.
hat on for you
Let's
there.
there
go.
we go.
I got a
Oh,
bunch of
let's go.
t-shirts too.
Amazing. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so I feel like that's a big part of what Josh and I want to talk about too. It's just like we didn't set out to necessarily have that conversation in the beginning, but I think the more we've taken a dive into some of these older records and thought about sort of the legends of country music, like it's just not in that place today, and that's a shame. Because I think so much of it is about coming from this place of like class. We've talked about that. Like there was
Hmm.
a lot of people who came up from poor upbringings, and maybe they came from a place like, Kentucky, and Kentucky's had a hard road for a long time, and anybody who's from there knows that, and continues to be true. And so I just feel like that's why country music comes across as genuine, because people are singing from that place. So
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the heart of what you're delivering. And I don't want to call any artists out and say that they don't have heart in their music, but I just think that the bigger piece is that some of them don't get to express that true heart, because of the way the industry is. And I
Yeah.
think that's paralyzing for a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was the way it was when we're talking about the Loretta Lynn's, we're talking about the Charlie Prides, you're talking about that group, that class of performer back in those days. And again, I just sadly, I don't, I don't think that the same thing would apply. If you think about the Coal Miner's Daughter movie and where Mooney takes her, across the country, and they're doing these little, God, this 45 records in these sleeves, and they're walking into these radio stations and saying, play this music. And even then the DJs are a little bit hesitant about it, but you could still walk in and they could still put that on their turntable, and they could do that. They have free reign to
Hmm.
do that. You just don't have, like you're talking about, you are a free form show, which is great, because I don't know that you know, there's not a lot of propensity to be able to do that kind of thing. And for an
Yeah.
artist to be able to say, this is from my heart, this is what I mean, this is what I feel, and this is where I'm coming from, and this is what I want to do for. I feel so compelled to deliver this craft and this creation that I've come up with, and this piece of me, because it's a
Right.
piece of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's like slowly just trickled that way and for the last several decades until we're at. But,
Hmm.
I think stuff always shifts, and I feel like people are starting to realize that, like, I've seen a lot of, I think people realizing how fun country is and kind of turning away from some of that other stuff that's on the radio. I've definitely seen a shift in that, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm hopeful that maybe it gets back to a little more authentic or
Yeah,
at
I
least
think,
fun for me. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I know you said you brought up Billy Strings with bluegrass
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
how that's kind of a predominant kind of thing happening. And I think about what, like, 10 years ago, would have I thought, oh, Billy Strings would be as big of an artist as he is? I mean, probably
No.
not. So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like you
He's a
said,
perfect
Josh,
example. Yeah.
there's hope. There is hope. There are shifts. There are things that can happen. Um, my hope is that there is enough of a shift where those people that have that beautiful creation inside of themselves, those artists that really, really desire to bring that piece out, like gosh, and again, I just refer back to the Coal Miner's Daughter movie and her in the garden, dadgum, Mama just wrote a song. I
Yeah.
think Mama just wrote a song. I just, there's nothing more real than that. And
Yeah.
for artists that write their own music and that perform from such a place of that roots and that guttural place that they've brought that part of their soul out, if you will. I think that's where we were when we started country music, and I would love to see more of that coming back.
Yeah,
I'm
for
hopeful. I'm
sure.
hopeful with you.
Yeah. And I'm not like, I think that maybe I come across from saying, oh, I want everything to be like it was in the 60s. But I just, like you said, I love authenticity. Like, and Billy Strings, yeah, he's a perfect example of that. Just anyone that's just true to themselves and able to like actually create art, even if it's like Billy Strings is huge and he's just playing pure bluegrass and he'll play it a little different than some of those people did in the
Hmm.
50s that are purists, but he's amazing. And I mean,
Yeah,
and then that when people are like that, then people are going to go back and listen into, old bluegrass and they'll listen
yeah,
to have
yeah.
Bill
They'll be
Monroe and
curious.
stuff. And then and then it's this
Yeah.
full circle and it's like kind of, yeah, the fun about it.
Well, and I think that's how you expand your perspective is by looking at things outside of the box. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole gist of evolving, if you will, as a human being. We want to grow, but to grow, we sometimes have to get uncomfortable or we sometimes have to step outside of what we know normally. So I'm totally with you. Like I love country music and there are certain things about the newness of it that I do like, but there's really those old roots are something that I really honor and like as well and feel really strongly about. And I do think there's space for both to exist, the elements to
Yeah.
still to commingle. And I do think you're seeing a little bit of that trying to come back around. And I think it's kind of fighting against that industry
Oh,
standard
yeah.
of it's got to
Yeah.
be like this. No, that won't sell because that's not what our marketing team is telling us and that's not what the label all of the different layers that goes
Yeah.
into making a record these days.
Yeah.
Well, pedal steel guitar has really forced its way back into popular music, which I, there's a lot of like indie bands making country music records now, and they're appearing with a lot of people. Like I think of Waxahachie, and she frequently talks about that the lead singer of Waxahachie. She frequently talks about Lucinda Williams being a big influence for her. And I saw them play, and Lucinda came out. It was at the Ryman, and I've actually seen multiple artists who I really like in the sort of indie space quote Lucinda Williams as sort of their like entry point into country music, which I think is. I mean, she kind of broke out in the 90s and, she had the great Car Wheels on a Gravel Road and one of my favorite records. But yeah, and then I think that as long as you get into that and then it starts to creep into music, like I know I'm talking about indie music and it doesn't have as large of an audience as some of these things that we're talking about, but I think it does speak to the fact that there's like a hunger for that sound, a hunger for that authenticity. And I agree. I think, you said something earlier that I think was a great point. Like, I don't think it's that people making country music and what's being played today lack that authenticity, but it's not what sells.
Yeah,
And so much of it is just what marketing you have to do now, right? Like, they
right.
try to find somebody now. I think a record label doesn't look at you like, how good is your music? They're like, how can could we get somebody to share this Instagram reel a million times if you're a singer and you do something like viral. Like I think so much of it is just they talk about that and not really
Hmm.
like the music is a secondary factor to who you are as an artist now.
Yeah, and if we're talking about the old artists that you're speaking about on your podcast, I mean, it's completely reversed.
Mhm.
It's about who you are first. Another, you talked about Lucinda Williams. Another girl from that class, I call him girl, is Emmylou Harris.
Oh
We
Mm.
can talk
yeah.
about Emmylou. I mean, she's another one it's the reverse. It's the, this is what I'm creating and this is the music. This is the first thing. It's not the secondary thing. The promotion and the marketing and putting it out there is the secondary thing. And yeah, I think it's totally flipped from where it was.
Yeah. Well, you said you got out of music. So you also make a podcast. Would you like to tell us some about that?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Uh,
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to be involved in something. I loved the studio and I
Hmm.
loved the stage when I was performing, but I got to a point where it was just like I knew this was not where I wanted my life to head, but I did want to have something in that vein, if you will.
Yeah.
So I started doing more studio vocals, and whether it be background vocals, whether it be commercial radios, like
Hmm.
speaking. And I found
Yeah.
voiceover stuff. So voiceovers became kind of a big caveat for me. Just made sense because I was singing in the studio. Okay, I can speak in the studio too. And as I was doing that, I was raising kids. I was dabbling in and out of that. And now my kids are grown and flown. And so I'm jumped back into it pretty full force. And the podcast came about kind of through that whole, all right, I can speak. What are we going to
Yeah.
speak about? I have something to share. And that sharing is, I want to connect people. And I think that podcasts are so great for doing that because you can literally find a podcast about any subject that you
Hmm.
want that you can
Yeah.
connect to. And you don't have to be, no one has to look at you. You can put it in your headphones while you're going on a walk with the dog. You listen to it in your car on your way to work. There's so many different things and so many ways that we can learn about different subjects. And for me, creating my podcast 3 years ago, it's called the Soul Goals Podcast, Soul.
Okay.
It is not a faith based podcast, but I like to call it a human based podcast because
Hmm.
we all have these eternal souls, right? So if we're going back to kind of that faith based thing, if you want to speak from that genre, if you will, but we have these souls that are craving connection, craving relatability. And in the day and age, specifically since we went, I think it was headed that way, but then we hit COVID when the world shut down and
Yeah.
we were isolated. And then it created a lot of different stuff for a lot of different people. So
Yeah.
the idea for creating the podcast was to help people understand that they're not alone by hearing other people's stories and allowing people to share, doing an interview back and forth conversation with people about the things that they've gone through. So year number one was amazing. 52 weeks, actually 50 weeks, the last two were wrap up weeks, but
Hmm.
50 weeks of guests that came on and shared their experience about something that they struggled with, how they got through it, what they did along the way. And the idea is it's helping us heal. It's helping us
Hmm.
better understand more about ourselves. And again, connecting. I think that's the biggest thing and feeling like you are not alone. And the tagline for the podcast is everyone has a story and every story matters. So let's make your story count. We all matter and our stories are so important to the greater whole. Whether you feel like it is or not, you do affect people around you
Oh yeah.
and you do carry so much in that. And you are so valued. And I think people need to hear that a lot more often than they're getting that fed to them.
Oh yeah. And that's beautiful. And like you said, when people can feel so alone and insular and they're able to hear a story of someone they can relate to, it makes it feel like, oh, someone else went through this or some it is
Yeah,
such a beautiful thing to be able to relate to someone that way. And I work with kids and that's one of my big things that I work on, having them share stories and things that, especially in young kids, you're just like, yeah, you might think that kid's weird, but when figure out you like the same movie or you went to the same amusement park, then you have a connection. And it's like always any sort of community where you can connect to someone is, yeah, it's a very rewarding
absolutely.
aspect of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a win-win for everybody, right? It's such a win-win. And I finished writing my first book. It's a journal. It's a 52-week journal that chronicles year two, which we kind of went a little bit different direction. I had a co-host on for year two, and
Uh,
each week we would do these personal growth exercises, and we'd come
Hmm.
back on, and then we'd share with our listeners what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them, and what was really bad about them, what was really great about them. So I put all that into a journal book, into a book, basically. It's available on Amazon called The Soul Goals Make Your Story Count.
okay.
Hmm.
And now I'm writing book number two, and this is a kind of a short story compilation that loosely chronicles year number one of the Soul Goals podcast, where I'm talking about different people that I had on and their stories, and what I learned from them personally, and the takeaway that I received from them. So when I say it's a win-win, like I feel so grateful for people that come on and share their vulnerable sides of themselves about different subjects that, a lot of us, I mean, people talking about addiction, people
Hmm.
talking
Yeah.
about overcoming disease, overcoming cancer, their walk through it.
Yeah.
Lots of different vulnerable pieces for all of us to go, wow. I mean, for me, it made me put my things in perspective and go, oh, I really made a mountain out of that molehill. Because if I look at what this was, it doesn't make my experience any lesser than. It just makes me look at my experience in a way that I may have felt like I could just go and pull my hair out. But
Mm,
if I can relate to them and look at what they went through, I can then go, okay, all right, I'm okay. I can do this. They did this. Or if it's the exact opposite, if I'm struggling and I hear, like you said, Josh, you got somebody that you think is kind of weird or you
yeah.
don't really know, and
Yeah.
then you listen to them talk and you go, wow, we are so similar and had no idea. I open up this great box of us to be able to connect. And then when we connect, we heal. And that's what we're
Hmm.
really here to do. We all have trauma in our life. Like whether it's a capital letter T or a lowercase t, we all have trauma.
Yeah.
And I think relating to people and understanding that we are not alone in our work and in our walk in life is so helpful for both parties to be able to do a lot of healing work naturally as it
Very much
stands.
so. Yeah, it's such a good mission. I know we spoke a bit about it. We met at the Nashville podcasters community, which was awesome. It was my first time going, and Josh and I had really just started this. And you told me about what you were doing on your podcast, and yeah, I actually think about this is a random anecdote, but I think it's applicable. I just saw this movie. I had read the novella before, but the adaptation of Train Dreams, and Netflix put out I think a version of it, but it was a very moving film. Not a lot of movies bring me to tears, but it did, and the essence of the story was, at least what I took away from it was that you sort of watch a man live his entire life, and by the end of it, like he finds fulfillment in a life that was broken. And he realized it's kind of making me sad now to think about it. But what you get from it is that even the most simple life that may not have impacted that many people around them, like say, he was like a logger and he was like growing up in the early 19th century, and he passed away without much like merit. He dies in his home at the end. I'm sorry to spoil it, but I don't think that actually has any bearing on the plot of the film. But you know, the important part is that his life had value, no matter what he did, and everyone has their little story that we live, and many people don't get to hear about that from others. And the things that we struggle with, often we struggle with in silence. So I could tie that back to country music too, because so much of this golden age of country music, so many of Loretta Lynn's songs, they're really speaking to the human experience, the life that we actually live. They're not prettying it up. They're talking about things that are challenging and difficult. Like a lot of those songs are about being poor or like living through really turbulent times. Like country music handled that well, or just about being a human in this world and living through it. And it's not pretty a lot of times. And the more we talk about that and give it the power of like a community, I think there's just so much value in that. So I really I think that's an awesome topic to cover.
Oh, thanks, Wes. I,
Yeah.
I love what you said about human experience, and we relating that to, if we go back to the country music, the roots that you guys talk about each week, it's that human experience that those artists have brought. And I mean, that to me is a healing element for so many people. And it's a
Yeah.
relatability element. And there's so much depth that we can find when we go back into those chronicles of time and we look back and go, oh, wow, that's such a simple story, but it's so complex. And it's still the human experience that we're all still having today. It transpires years. It's the same thing. It's just with a different year on it and a different face.
Yeah. Yeah, and people, I feel like we've never been more connected in terms of like social media, and like you can pick up your phone and text anyone. And yet, when I talk to people these days, it feels like we've also never been more isolated. Like no one
Right.
really has those conversations and talks about. I mean, I think I'm not trying to hate on social media either. I mean, it has a purpose, and sometimes it can do good, but you only mostly see good things there. Like I think it's notable when someone is vulnerable there, right? Like, and it just doesn't happen that often. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like the more and more, and maybe even potentially this could open that door for people to be interested in country music. Like I think of a lot of modern day country artists are actually telling like they're writing biting political songs. They're writing, they're challenging sort of societal norms, which is what a lot of country music songs did, in its heyday too. So I think there's a thirst for that, and hopefully people are craving that desire to connect with one another. That I like to hope. That's the best I can do, really.
Well, and that's, I think, the best that all of us can do. I know, Josh, you were talking about that with the hope of, the resurgence of these different grassroots kind of musical elements that we're talking about, that you guys talk about on your show. I think, if we look at it from the bigger picture of life, it's a hope. That's what we have. That's what we
Uh-huh.
we have to cling to for so many different things. And if we know that other people are in that same place, then let's link arms and we can join up and, and we can connect and we
Yeah.
can find that, like I said, relatability, biggest thing. And knowing that you have value, knowing that you do matter and you do impact the world. What's the name of that show you were talking about, Wes, the movie? Because I want to watch it tonight.
Yeah, Train Dreams.
Okay.
It's an adaptation. The novella is originally by Dennis Johnson, and I would it's only about 100 pages, I think, or so. I've loved it for many, many years, and so when they adapted it, I kind of thought there's no way they can pull this off because the emotional weight of a I'm a book guy myself. I love movies too, but it's one of those books that I was like, I don't know how you can adapt this, right? Like it's a very simple story, but somehow they did a very moving job with it. So I genuinely there's not a lot of things like that anymore, and it has this great score that sort of really places you in the moment of that time. Like it's fascinating. It literally starts off like he's in a little log cabin, and I can't remember exactly what part of the country they're in, but by the end of it, he's watching the moon landing, and somebody lived that life, you know.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
there were people who that was the change they saw in just their one human lifetime, and like they were impacted by those things in a way that I don't know. I don't want to give it all away, but it's
No, you're good. You're good.
it's just it's very moving. I really do think about it from that tale of like there's just so much importance to not to just keep restating this, but the human experience and being on this earth and like I don't know. It reminded me that frankly, my life has value. And that's not always
Mhm.
the easiest thing to reflect on, right? Like sometimes we lose track of that and we think like we get caught up in this game. I think there's even country music songs that reflect on this. Like everybody's trying to just get ahead in life and you're trying to better yourself and like you continue to try to sort of criticize yourself. And it's very easy to do. And then the more and more you can think about like, okay, no matter how this plays out for me personally, like my life is important. And so like I don't know. I think that's just such a great message these days. And I really hope country music can continue to go to that place, right? That's one thing that I struggle the most with about modern day country music. The messages aren't those messages of support for people. It's not a story that, it's about like I don't know. I won't even try to opine about what a lot of the current country songs are about, but they're definitely not talking about like the same kind of things that a story like a coal miner's daughter would be talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Or like
It's
like I said earlier, one's on the way.
Yeah, I was about to
Like,
say one's on the
yeah,
way. How many songs talk about that?
I mean, they say to have her hair done, Liz flies all the way to France.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie's seen in a discotheque doing a brand new dance. I mean, like, it can go on. And the White House social season should be glittering and gay. Look, I said gay. There we go.
Yeah.
You can't do it's like
yeah,
the pill. You can't say that anymore, but it's part of the song and it's part of the roots and it's part of the feeling and it's part of the story. And that's the story that she was seeing when she wrote that song. I mean, that's the world she was living in. It was real and it was truthful. And because I think of social media and I think of the world that we're in and a lot of different elements that we deal with on a regular basis, all of us, you can't be that candid anymore. You can't be that real anymore. And again, the hope is that we get back to that, right? And we get back to at least a partial semblance of that, where that really becomes something that people can cling on to and they go, ah, yeah, that I get that story. I see that story. I feel that story. And I do feel like let me back up. There are artists that do put those deep feeling. I think about Morgan Wallen's initial stuff when he first came out. What was golly, I know I can't name it. One of his very early songs that he ever that he put out. And I think there's a lot, if I think about the writing of his stuff, I kind of go, okay, there's a story there. There's something, it really unwinds in my brain, kind of like if we're talking about Loretta Lynn, like
Mm.
the way she wrote about her experience. And she was writing about her life. Like she was like, you were hearing what she went through last week when she
Yeah.
wrote a song, you know? It was so real, so vulnerable, and so real, very real,
Oh yeah.
authentic, like what you were talking about earlier, Josh. Authenticity, very
Mhm.
authentic.
A lot of debut country records tend to fall more heavy on the traditionalist side, I think. And then typically an artist then gets sucked up into the machine like we're talking about. And I feel like that's pretty common. Um, I don't know why this comes to mind, but just somebody that I used to think very differently about until one of my friends told me, hey, check out his version of this cover is Brad Paisley. Like I used to think, well, that's like pop country. And, we were going a little bit further back in time with that, but still like that's kind of around the era when country was changing very rapidly. And I used to not have a lot of interest in him. And then someone said, oh, go listen to him covering You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive. It's an amazing cover, by the way.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, he's just like, he's actually a very great musician and he can do like classical country really well. So I don't think that it's that people aren't capable of that today. I think it's that the people who are making decisions about how to market this music think that people don't want that, even though I
Mm.
think there's a lot of people who do. I mean, again, we've said the Billy String story a couple of times. I mean, that's a great example to me that there is a thirst for that kind of music, like because he is just playing bluegrass. I mean, that it does have a and I guess you might call it like neo bluegrass. There's probably some fancy name for that, right? For the genre, but it doesn't matter. It's still bluegrass at the end of the day, and there's still millions of people showing up to listen to it. So you can't tell me people don't want to hear classical country music to this day, too. It's definitely out there.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
Well, I don't want to keep you. You said you have a bunch of voiceover stuff to do, and I can tell you got the voice down. I'm a little too country. I don't enunciate. I have to really try on that.
You're from
But
Kentucky, though.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
from
I'm
Kentucky.
just enough that I sometimes, but I really appreciate you coming on here and talking with us about your life and your work and your project that you're working on and
Yeah.
how meaningful it is. Where can people listen to it?
They can check out you got to put the on the front, the Soul Goals podcast. You can listen to it anywhere you stream podcasts.
Okay,
It's on Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and Apple.
awesome.
Also, you can catch it on YouTube. We do the video, we put that one out there as well.
Nice.
It's again, just the Soul Goals podcast. You can check that one out there as well.
Okay, I'll leave you with one question. So with all the songs you sing, would you say "Coal Miner's Daughter" is the most special one to you, or do you have any other up there? You're just like that. I just love singing that song.
I mean, I love that, but I also love Patsy Cline Crazy.
Oh yeah,
I
Mm,
mean, nothing like that. Nothing like Crazy. And I think I liked Walking After Midnight. So I
yeah.
think I didn't know much about Patsy Cline until, I kind of dove down the Loretta Lynn rabbit hole there. And then when you meet Loretta Lynn and then you learn about Patsy Cline songs, it's like, oh, this
Mm,
is the song we'd like you to sing on the show. Okay. So then I'm like, oh, wow, this is really great. So that opened that door to me as well. The Loretta experience did for
yeah.
Patsy Cline stuff. And I mean, it's a close tie. Coal miner's daughter, crazy. Like
mm.
I think they kind of go hand in hand for me.
Yeah, and they're close friends. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 yeah. Well, thank you so much, Don. I really appreciate you taking the time out and talking to us. And Wes setting this
Absolutely.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
good.
I'm so glad you're able to come on the podcast and talk. And, we're just excited to always talk to anybody who loves country music and has had a hand in it. And it means a lot to me and Josh. And I'm glad it means something to you too, because honestly, yeah, if there's any one theme that I like to take away, it's that there's tons of people like us out there.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah.
it's just a good thing to spread the word for sure.
Amen, brother. Thank you guys so much. It's
Thank
been great,
you.
great talking.
Same. Good luck tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. See ya.
Thanks.